Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at Clayton's AFC on Twitter. I feel like that side just says it all. Here to obviously review the defeat to Aston Villa yesterday at home and preview the Bayern game. Doing a 2-in-1 today. Where to start with yesterday? It's just general context. It's really deflating. I won't lie. It's is it over? No, of course it's not over. But the margin for error is just non-existent. I already felt like we'd have to. I said to win the league we would have to win all 7 games, and we've gone and lost one. Do I think Man City are capable of dropping points in one of the 6 games? Yes. Do I also think Man City are capable of winning all 6? Abso-fucking-lutely. So I think that's the kind of pin in the balloon vibe for me. And the reason why is because of who we're up against. I think I've said before, I think City have shown vulnerabilities this season. They can be got at and stuff, but there's 6 games to go now. And if there's any team that you back once they're ahead to not slip up, it's them. But yeah, so it's really gutting. But I want to take some time to kind of go through what happened, team selection. Obviously, there's a lot of debate around the lineup and stuff. So I want to go through the kind of typical process that we usually do, go through the lineup, talk through that. I want to take a statistic look at this game because I think it's helpful to look at it in a certain context yesterday. Because if I'm being honest, I thought we played well in the first half. I really did. I thought we created enough chances to go into halftime leading. Arteta said similar. He thought it could be 3-4-5 in half before the second half, and I agree. Like maybe not 4-5, but I think it could have been 2 or 3 going into it, and then we got punished. And it's one of those, like you see it in the Bayern game as well. You can't have chances and afford to miss them because opposition will just get a sniff, and if they're clinical, that's it. It's game done. So I'm really gutted. But again, it's context for me. Is it over? No, I don't think it's over. Is it unlikely? Yeah, of course it's unlikely. But yeah, it's I think the biggest thing for me was it was obviously straight after the Liverpool game, and like the vibes were unbelievable. You kind of watching that in the pub. It was the 70th minute or so, and we decided to leave the pub and get into the ground. Got into the ground and saw the final whistle, and it was like, yeah, it was like the start of like that's Liverpool out of it. That's how it felt at the time, and I still think Liverpool will drop points in another game as well. And then I think to witness that, the players would have been aware of it, and then go and perform like that in the second half when you know you need to win. It was just I can't really put my finger on what happened. But I think it's one of them, like, I'm sure as I talk through things, we'll kind of get to what happens. But lineup. So, team came out, and I definitely got it wrong. I thought Martinelli would play. I think I predicted that midfield 3. And I thought Tomiyasu would play at right back. So, yeah, got 9 of the 11 correct, but got Trossard wrong and Ben White wrong. But lineup comes out, and I'll be honest, when I saw the lineup, I was fine. I've got a lot to say about Zinchenko, but I do think a lot of this is hindsight stuff coming up. I think Aston Villa at home is a game where you can afford to play Zinchenko. This is with the information I had pre-game. I don't think we'll see Zinchenko start another Premier League, start another game for us in the Champions League or the league this season. But with the information we had going into it, I thought it was a reasonable thing to think he will play. We've seen it before. Rice as the lone 6, Zinchenko will tuck in, form part of a double pivot. And we know his weaknesses, and we know he can be isolated and teams will target him. But we've seen it before, and Gabriel will more than often overcompensate for it. And it's the risk-reward thing, right? And I think against a team like Villa, who we saw like they were playing like a very, not deep, but tight mid block, you do need people with Zinchenko's on ball ability. Again, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of hindsight doing the rounds, because then people are now going, oh, well, why didn't Kiwior play? And we had a successful formula that was working earlier in the season. Why did he change it? And it's like these same people are the ones calling for rotation and probably ripped Kiwior apart for how Sane dealt with him midweek. And it's like, I don't know what people want sometimes. And then, okay, if Zinchenko doesn't play and it's Tomiyasu, that in the first phase isn't good enough. You can't have Rice as the lone 6 and Tomiyasu at left back. You need someone else that can be a progressive ball player from there. So just think logically. Don't think what you want. Think about what actually works with the dynamics of these teams. This Arsenal team. If Tomiyasu plays at left back, you need someone else that is able to go in and form as part of that double pivot with ball progression with Declan Rice. I think Ben White worked with Kiwior, but Kiwior was more playing as like the third centre back, right? And White would go in, but White wasn't really the ball progressor. When White was doing it as part of a double pivot, it was Odegaard that was dropping in and being the ball progressor, and White was going and kind of alternating between the half space and holding the width as an outlet. When White was going central next to Rice as part of the double pivot, he wasn't really the one progressing the ball. He was more distracting people away and drawing attention to himself to get other people in a dangerous area. So if you're coming out and saying Tomiyasu should have been at left back, what's your solution to who goes next to Rice as the 6? Jorginho, if that's the guy that comes to mind, there's no fucking way he's playing Wednesday. What day was it? It was Tuesday against Bayern. Obviously Sunday against Villa, and then Jorginho's probably going to play again against Bayern on Wednesday. There's no way he can manage that. So again, if you're going to come out and be like, it's stupid, it's this and that, sure, in hindsight, it wasn't great, was it? But come on, like, if you're telling me you don't understand why, then I don't know what to tell you, because it's something that we've seen, and you can see in phases we need ball progressors next to Rice, because Rice isn't the best ball progressor in that area of the pitch in terms of punching through the lines. He's fantastic at a lot of things. Incisive passing, I think, is something he still needs to develop. So if we're not playing Zinchenko, like, the solution to me with the information we've got now is, I don't think Zinchenko will be playing, and I think we will revert back to the kind of Kiwior and Tomiyasu playing that kind of left centre-back role. Gabriel is the central centre-back. Unfortunately, it means Saliba on the right, which I don't think he's great at. And White probably will be the one going into midfield. But again, we've all been vocal about needing to rotate the squad. You can't then throw a hissy fit when he rotates the squad. And of course, we can say, like, there's mistakes made. I think the information is becoming clear. We've evolved past Zinchenko. But I stand by with the information we had at the time when this lineup came out. It's a lineup that should have had enough to beat this Villa team. And that takes me on to the stats. I want to go through, like, I think there's so much hindsight doing the rounds on this. You look at the stats, and for anyone listening on the podcast, you can see this is taken from Mark, our stats model, on Twitter. So it's been a while since we've used him, but I think this for me was a game where we really need to apply a statistical lens to what happened, because game state completely fucking destroyed us here. If I read out the stats, according to Mark's model, XG was 1.57 to us, 0.89 to them. The threat was relatively low, 1.69 to their 0.69. Possession quite even, 51.7 to their 48.3, and field tilt 65.6 to their 34.4. And again, you look at the graphs, I was not worried at halftime. I was annoyed because I thought we got into a few good chances. I think there was a constant... Okay, let me get this out of the way as well. I don't think Villa deserved a win. I don't think Villa were tactically as great as everyone else is making out. I think there were a few points in the first half where we had them. Havertz was continuously making a run between the fullback and the centre-back in that half space. And if he could sort his feet out, he was in. He also had another chance where he should have drilled it low across the box into the other side of the post, but he hit it straight at Martinez. Jesus had a header. There was another chance as well. I just felt like we were getting chances. And you can see the threat, like, just split the game into two. So if you're watching on YouTube, just watch it until half time. look at the difference in both of the graphs. Like both XG and threat, we're miles apart from them. And to be honest, the XG one, Villa never really created anything clear. I know people will say, oh, Watkins hit the post, Tielemans hit the bar, but they were long-range shots from low probability angles. The biggest chances, I didn't even talk about Trossard's one. Like, that's an open goal. And sure, Martinez did good to proactively move his foot, but Trossard has the whole of the left side of the net to aim for. And this is my frustration and why I want to contextualize things around the tiers around the lineup and stuff. If Trossard puts us 1-0 up, if Jesus scores that header, if Havertz gets himself into a position in control from one of those 3-4 runs, we're laughing. We're saying it's another game where Arteta's rotated the team. We've played in second, third gear, and we're laughing. And it was just one of those things where we didn't take our chances. And then I'll tell you what, the one thing I cannot explain is what the hell happened in the second half. That's one thing I can't explain. And this is where, again, context. For me, Zinchenko had his value in the first half. I thought he was making some of us nervous. He was taking extra touches where he shouldn't have. But I thought he was adding value. And for me, it was more in the second half. This is where I'm quite... it's quite rare that I say that I think Arteta got it wrong. But the fact that Zinchenko stayed on until the 87th minute, that was a mistake in my opinion, because I thought he added value in the first half. Second half, I think you could see quite clearly we weren't on the ball as much as we would have liked. And that's why I would have liked to seen a structural change. Get Jorginho in that position with Rice instead of Zinchenko. Change things around a bit. And then you could then see in my opinion, and this might be unpopular, Zinchenko added more value than he was a weakness in the first half. But I could see the tide changing in the second half. And I thought Arteta was quite slow to react to that. And then, Bailey obviously came on for Diaby in the 61st minute. I think that's where I would have done the changes of Tomiyasu, Jorginho. Just get a more solid 1v1 defender in Tomiyasu. Or even, because he took off Ben White, right? And maybe that's fitness related. But bring White and, bring Tomiyasu and Kiwior on. And then get Jorginho on. I think that the game there for me in the second half, I would love to see the statistics on what the possession was in the first half versus the second half. Because for me, the fundamental difference in the second half was I didn't think we were able to sustain pressure by having the ball enough. I thought it turned into too much of a basketball game. And you see the overall game possession, 51.7 to their 48.3. I thought a lot of that came in the second half. I wouldn't mind betting that Villa had more possession in the second half. And that's where I just believe Zinchenko became a bit of a passenger in that second half. But fuck me, man. If you were booing him, you're pathetic. He annoys me. He annoys me as a player. He's got his flaws, but he's a good football player. And he's got his uses. I think right now, his confidence is in the toilet. And it's like, have we not learned anything from Granit Xhaka? These are human beings. They're one of ours. Whatever you think of him, he wears the same shirt that we all, with the badge of the club we all support. Get behind him. I thought the atmosphere and the support was absolutely pathetic yesterday. Booing Zinchenko, people leaving after. I saw people leaving after the first goal, let alone the floodgates after the second. It's pathetic. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just want to double down. And I thought the lineup was fine. And just shout out to my mate Lee. Lee's in the chat. Agreed. Lee says, I agree. I thought the lineup was fine, but certain players performed poorly. I felt confident at halftime with the quality of chances we were getting, but the second half performance was very poor. That is exactly how I feel. I thought certain players were performing poorly. I thought we would create enough in the second half that just by sheer probability, it would something would go in the back of the net. But it didn't happen. And I think there's a lesson in there, right? You've got to take your chances, because then you suddenly get caught in this scenario and game state where we're having to go for it even more. We were committing players, and Villa, they were brave, to be fair to them. All game, they had 2 or 3 people pinned on us. And that's not something we're used to. We're used to seeing teams boxed in, and then it's the ball would come out and then we'd just go again. We'd scrap it up just completely start a new attack. But Villa were brave. It's like they were playing chicken. They would consciously leave 2 or 3 people up against White, Saliba, Gabriel, and it was usually Zaniolo, sorry, and Watkins, and then one of Rogers or I think it was Rogers actually, and they'd do their best. It's almost like we kind of didn't have a midfield because the 5 in the forward line, including Rice, would go and press. There was no midfield there, and they'd go direct, and they would back themselves to win it. And as the game went on, do you know what? It got to like the 75th minute, and I just said to my mate that I was sat next to, like, I just don't think we're going to score here. I cannot explain what happened in the second half. I thought we got worse through the substitutions. Tomiyasu and Martinelli on for Trossard and White, I thought was fine, but it was more when Odegaard came off, Smith Rowe came on, and then Jorginho for Jesus. It was the Odegaard for Smith Rowe one. I thought you could see a huge level drop there. And Smith Rowe was a really disappointing cameo. Didn't think he was pressing with any intelligence or urgency. Kind of chickened out of a couple of duels. Not good. Not a good cameo. But this is where my frustration is. Odegaard obviously had to come off, right? There have been games where he could have taken him off. And I'm looking at Brighton away. Did Odegaard come off in that one? He did in the 89th minute, but it was 3-0. It was 2-0 in the 62nd minute in that game, and then 3-0 in the 86th. But like we were doing all right in that. The Luton game, I'm pretty sure Odegaard got 90 minutes in that game. Like, what the hell was that about? And yeah, some of the players looked really tired, in my opinion. Rice looked a bit leggy. I thought it was obvious that some of them were tired because a lot of it was the final ball. I thought we were arriving in areas quite nicely, but the final ball was a little bit off, and some of the decision making was off. And yeah, it's I think it's mental and physical fatigue. But that's quite concerning. Because some of these games, like where we've been winning 6-0, 5-0, 4-1, 6-0 again, like we were playing in cruise control. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. For me, it's the hypocrisy around lineups. Like everyone's screaming for Arteta to rotate. He rotates, and I don't think many people are shitting the bed pre-game. But because of everything that happened during the game, it's like, oh, now it's it was obviously the wrong decision before the game. I don't agree with that. I think it would now be the wrong decision if he went and played Zinchenko at the Allianz. That's where I agree. I still very much think that we were our own enemies and Zinchenko was made to be. He was at fault for the goals, don't get me wrong. He was defending poorly. He was like way too deep in the box in our half. And to me, it's very clear we're evolving beyond him. But I still think he has got a part to play in some games. And I think if we can get to a point where we can put our chances away in this game, I don't think we're having a huge conversation about him. I think we're having a conversation like I believe, like, are the signs there that we're naturally progressing beyond him? Yes, I think so. But I don't think it becomes his fault. I don't think it's Zinchenko's fault we lost yesterday. I think it's on the attackers. I think we created enough chances in the first half to go in with a lead. And then it's the classic thing where Zinchenko probably comes off. We do that thing where we protect the lead. But yeah, really frustrating. Bad day in the final third. And I don't think Arteta managed it very well, if I'm being honest, in game. But yeah, I don't think he managed it well in game yesterday. But I don't think it was an Emery masterclass like everyone is making out. In the second half, I think it was a case of Villa got more of the ball because Arsenal were playing poorly. I don't think they did anything like outstanding tactically. Like their mid-block was tough to play in between the lines and stuff. But in the first half, like I said, we got through it 4 or 5 times. Diego Carlos got him out of jail a couple of times with like an amazing recovery pace. But I think if Trossard hits it to the left, which he should have, if Jesus gets a header on target, if Havertz can sort his feet out for one of those few occasions where he's in, like, I think we're then having a different conversation, because that pass from, I think Zinchenko did it a couple of times into Havertz, that was good coaching, and that was identifying a hole in Villa that we were able to exploit time and time again, but didn't capitalize on it. So my summary of the game is, I thought first half it was a good tactical performance with rough first and final touches around in the final third and poor decision making. And we were unlucky. I'm going to say it. And I feel like I'll get pelters. I thought we played poor in the second half, but it got to a point where I think we just ran out of ideas. And I think the manager has to take some flack for that. I really do. I think he has to. And those that know me personally will know, like, this is very unlike me to say that, but I'm just saying it as it is. I thought he handled the game poorly yesterday in the second half in particular, and don't think he reacted well. I think there was more he could have done with substitutions to change the flow of the game and get more control and give us that ability to create and sustain more chances than like we did in the first half. But yeah, my high level summary is bad day at the office, poor finishing. Zinchenko became a scapegoat, but he should have been taken off earlier. Arteta should have reacted to the game at hand earlier. And I don't think it was an Emery masterclass like everyone is making out. I think it was a proper smash, grab and run. But they took their chances, we didn't. That's football. In the context of the title race, it's hard now, but on to Wednesday. And I'm flying out tomorrow, and I cannot wait. It's a huge week in the club season, and all I would say as a fan is, like, block out the noise. I think if we go out, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, you bottled both competitions, this, that," and it's context again. Last season, no one was predicting Arsenal to win the league, and we put a title challenge in. This season, sure, we thought we'd have a better chance, and I don't think it's over, but it's our first time returning back to the Champions League, and I still think as a squad we're short. I still think we're a midfielder short, a couple of attackers short. Everyone talks about this 5-phase plan. Arteta hints at it a lot, where we're not even near the kind of pinnacle of where he wants us to be. And so for me, I think we're actually performing higher than the level he thought we would be with the resources he's got available squad-wise and the maturity in their development cycle. So I'm so chill about the future, regardless of what happens this week. Even if we end up losing the title, we get knocked out in the quarterfinals, I am so chill with where we're headed. I cannot tell you how confident I am for the next few years. Literally no problems. But obviously we don't want that to happen this year. We want to continue to outperform our expectations. So on to Bayern. I'm flying out tomorrow. So grateful to be going. I've never been away to watch Arsenal in a Champions League quarter-final. If we get through, it'll be our third ever Champions League semi-final. And yeah, I think we have a chance. Bayern are without Gnabry, Coman, Alphonso Davies. So that's some big players missing for them there. I think Guerrero will probably come in. Probably be Tell that plays on the wing in the absence of Gnabry and Coman. But I can't confess to have watched him too much, so I don't know like how good he is defensively. Gnabry obviously did a huge job and put in a huge shift in the first leg, but it's a huge game. I think for me, how I think this will go is I don't think we'll have as much of the ball as we did in the first leg, and it's going to be real periods of being very uncomfortable. If I had to pick my predicted team that starts the second leg, I'm going very similar with what he picked in the first leg, but I'm conflicted because I think Gabriel Jesus came on in that second half in the first leg, and I think he gave us a level of unpredictability that I really think this Arsenal team lacks. And in the Champions League in particular, I think that it's a moments competition, and I think he is capable of those moments. But then you see him start and how he played against Aston Villa yesterday, and it's like he wasn't fully there. And again, that makes me laugh. It's like everyone's now like, "Oh, Havertz he's useless in midfield. He should only be a number 9." But again, it's like those 3 runs Havertz made, they all came from midfield. It's funny again. It's like the whole outcome versus, people are so outcome driven. It's mind boggling. But pre yesterday, I would have said I wanted Rice at the 6 against Bayern, and I wanted Jesus up top and Havertz in midfield. If I'm being honest, I still want that. The problem then, though, is where do you get the control in midfield? Because I don't see him going with Zinchenko in this. And then if Rice plays as the lone 6, I feel like you either need a Jorginho or a Partey in there. Or does he do it? Does he just concede that we're not? But because when I say he's not going to just play Tomiyasu at left back and Rice at 6 with Havertz, because that's what we've seen so far, right? But that's all in the context of games where we expect to have the ball and dominate in the first phase. Is there a possibility that he concedes that tomorrow on Wednesday? And he does go, Raya, you're my keeper, obviously. 3 of the back 4 pick themselves, White, Saliba, Gabriel. We saw Kiwior get turned by Sane, so psychologically there's something there. Does he just go Tomiyasu, Rice at 6, start with Odegaard and Havertz either side of him, Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli or Trossard? Does he do that with the dynamics of just shut them out? Just completely nullify them. You've then got your 4, as Clive says on Arsenal Vision, you've got your 4 centre-backs there. You've got your 4 best defenders on the pitch there. You've got Rice screening them. Havertz, I know people don't see him as a midfielder, but the attributes he brings are very much that of a midfielder when he plays and starts in that left 8 zone. He tracks back. He works bloody hard. He arrives in the box. It's a tough one because there's nothing in me that tells me he's going to go without Jorginho, because it's just what we've seen so far. But I'm going to go for it. I think he's going to start without Jorginho tomorrow. I think he's going to start without Zinchenko and Jorginho. And it's because I think he's going to go in and just be like, I need right. Well, we saw Rice and Jorginho, in my opinion, in the first leg. It didn't work that well. Rice was 2 away from the play, and Jorginho was having to chase too much space. I think this is a game where we're going to be chasing quite a lot. And in my opinion, that's where I want a Rice, Odegaard, and Havertz midfield. And I want the defender to be Tomiyasu at left back. I think Arteta's going to go in tomorrow and start. I keep saying tomorrow, go in on Wednesday and start with the belief that he knows we're not going to have the ball. But can we defend from a solid base and hit them hard on counters, and having box crashes through Havertz, having the Martinellis, your Sakas, your Odegaards? And I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to go Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Tomiyasu, Rice, Odegaard, Havertz, and I think he's going to go Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli, in my opinion. And the reason why is I just think they will have more of the ball. I think it will be similar to City, where they'll have more of the ball than we think to justify Jorginho's inclusion, and you need hard-working midfielders against that. And then, if and when we regain the ball through that absolute wall, which can be White, Saliba, Gabriel, Tomiyasu, Rice screening them, Havertz sometimes dropping in, Martinelli, Saka, who work hard, the ability to propel yourself forward and break quickly through Odegaard, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli. Jesus' unpredictability, his ability to interchange with Havertz, I think that's our best bet to cause Bayern problems on Wednesday. I think Jesus' movement, interchanging with Havertz, will cause Dyer if he plays, and De Ligt or Upamecano. I forgot the other guy's name, Kim. I think that will cause all of them problems. Because I think with Havertz, I think up front, we know he can cause teams problems, but I think they were almost too comfortable to be like, yeah, do you know what? Go direct. We back ourselves in a physical duel. With Jesus, I think he can break their ankles just by his weaving in and out. And then he creates another area of space for Havertz to run into. So that's what I actually think he'll go with, and I think that will be a very unpopular opinion, but that's what I'm going with. Score predictions. It's interesting because no Gnabry and no Coman is huge. And Tell is a great player from what I've heard. He can, of course, cause damage. He can, of course, work hard, but he's not Gnabry or Coman. He's not as experienced as them. Alphonso Davies, that's a huge miss. Guerrero can cause problems going forward, but he doesn't have the recovery pace like Davies does. And I think we can really take advantage of that on Wednesday. I think if Saka, White, and Odegaard as a trio are on it, we can really cause them some damage. Unfortunately, if I'm being honest, I think with the way the home game went against Bayern, the way yesterday went against Villa, I think it's a task just slightly too big for us. I think we're absolutely capable of going there and winning, whether that's in 90 minutes through extra time or penalties. I think we're capable. I just think we're going to fall short. I think I couldn't tell you why, but we're showing some defensive vulnerabilities that I think are going to get exposed. And there's going to be too much of this game where we're chasing too much and more than I would like for it to be. I also think what's the common theme of teams that we're struggling against is these mid-blocks when they really nullify the space between the defensive line and the forward line. And there's no real pockets to occupy. But having said that, if they go with a high-ish line, they play a mid-block, the pass is in for a Havertz to crash in behind them. The pass is in for a Martinelli. So I think this is a game where technically there is no room for error. Everyone has to be spot on in inches. The first touch has to be perfect. The decision has to be perfect. And this is where I think we'll fall short. I don't think that suits this Arsenal team. I think when the stakes are high and we don't have enough of the ball, we often fall short in our decision-making and our touch and our control. And I think that's what's going to happen on Wednesday, unfortunately. I think Bayern the atmosphere is going to be fucking insane. I think Bayern are going to do us, sadly, if I'm being completely honest. It's one of those head versus hearts things. In my heart, I absolutely think we can go through. I think we can go there. I think we can shock them. I think we can find that determination, that grit, that like the thing that prompted me to say the words, one of the best defenses in the world. I think we can show that. I think we can hit them on the counter and create chances. But it's just my head is telling me otherwise, unfortunately. So I'll give two predictions. My head says we're going to lose 2-1 in normal time and go out. My heart says we're going to do it in extra time. My heart tells me we're going to go up. We're going to take the lead. We're going to concede, but we're going to find it from within us to win in extra time. But unfortunately, I think my head is the one that if I was putting money on, I'd have to back. So it's shit, but I'm being honest. But on that note, fuck what I said about my head. Listen to your heart. Come on, the Arsenal. It's a huge, huge moment for us. It's a chance to make history, and we need it after this week. It's been a tough week, and get behind the team, man. Like something else Lee said in the chat earlier, the fans let them down a lot on yesterday. We were nervy and quiet, constantly getting on the players' backs. People were leaving after the first goal. It's embarrassing. It's so true. Like we've been dreaming about getting to this position. When Arteta took over in December 2019, if you said to us, April 2024, you'll be 2 points behind Man City in a title race, 6 games to go. You already put together a title challenge the year before. You're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We'd all take it. So fucking take it and get on board and support the players. I don't know what the content is going to be when I'm back, because I'm back late Thursday night. So I'll see if I can do a Wolves preview and a Bayern review pod. But yeah, I'll kind of communicate on socials, chat to Nima, see what we can do. But yeah, put Villa behind you now. Use this as therapy. Get it out of your system. Do what you need to do. But on to Bayern now. If you're going loud and proud, I cannot bloody wait. And let's see if we can make history. Get behind the boys and let's see what we can do. Cheers for joining, everyone. Up the Arsenal.